This already smells amazing.
It's nice to be able to do a rye.
Yeah, without
Dan complaining the whole time.
Dan being a bitch. Little bitch.
A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Hey, welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I am not Dan, even though I'm sitting in his chair. But I'm Roberto PDL, though.
Yeah, Dan is in Ukraine fighting for Russia right now.
Yeah. He joined the Ukraine forces. It was actually part of why in the news this morning, they ran Russia out of a city. And it's all because of Dan. He took his arsenal out there.
But
so you
for
may
real,
not see him again. I don't know.
For real, he's in Slovenia.
Slovenia, yeah.
Like hiking like a fucking loser.
What are you doing? What does one do in Slovenia? I'm going to go hiking. Perfect. There's a forest preserve down the street here. Same thing.
In like 3 weeks, I'm going to Mexico to sit on a beach for 10 days. That's what you should do on a vacation.
Like Mexico Beach, Slovenia, terrorist attacks. You get kidnapped, abducted, and then thrown in prison like a spy. I mean, I just don't get it. But good for him.
Yeah, so he's having fun. I think we'll get some pictures on the Instagram and Facebook of what he's doing.
And he took his little bottles that he always takes pictures with.
He brought some mini bottles. He got a Willet, a Four Roses, a couple others. I can't remember which other.
Willet Rye.
Yeah.
Which I had never seen a shooter Willet Rye.
Yeah, me either.
That was so cool.
I got one back here somewhere.
Yeah, I have one in my boxes packed somewhere.
It was pretty neat.
That was pretty cool. I got a Four Roses, a Willet Rye, a Buffalo Trace, a Bullet, and a couple more that were really cool.
Oh, the Blantons.
Blantons? Oh, you have the Blantons. Did you find that?
Oh, no,
one?
I got the Blantons a while ago.
That's a cool one.
I got a new riff. Four Roses and
riff.
I got
the
Willet Rye. Yeah.
I wish Buffalo Trace would have had some blended bottles, some shooters. I mean, I don't care about the bottle itself. So blended shooters, that would have been cool.
Yeah. It's all right.
Dang. That was fun. I don't even remember recording the last episode that we did live.
At the house?
At the house, yeah. I remember parts of it. I don't know what we talked about. That was fun.
Yeah, we killed that the pepper rye.
In one sitting.
We're making old fashions.
Old fashions.
Those are pretty good.
We drank a lot of old fashions in the Kentucky sun. That was nice. That was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing that episode from the Kentucky house.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. We just needed some live music.
Yeah.
Some bluegrass band out there. That would be cool.
Yeah. So today we are drinking E.H. Taylor rye because Dan's not here. And Dan doesn't like rye.
I still don't get it. It's all in his mind.
I think so. Like almost every rye we've tried on the show, he's liked. But then he still says, I don't like rye.
Right. Yeah, I hate rye. But this one's great. Oh,
this one's
rye.
Really good. But I don't like rye.
Good. And then it's funny because when we do the blind tastings, and that's the proof that it's in its hand. His head. When we go to Gold Eagle, local liquor store for us here in the northwest suburbs, and we do the blind tastings, and there have been a few ryes.
Yeah.
And Dan's like, This is great. I rate it 5 because they give us they give you a scorecard. You rate it on finish, nose, taste. This is great. And then they reveal, and it's a rye. And like, oh, yeah. It's all in his head.
Oh, yeah. Oh. It's just okay.
Yeah. I'm going to put it down as a 2 now. Freaking Dan. He has rated like really good rye whiskeys as a 5.
Yeah, for sure.
And then he's like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. But
whatever. Maybe one day he'll come around.
Maybe one day. So, yeah, I'm excited about today's episode because I love this. Is one of my favorite whiskeys of all time.
Yeah, I mean it's a Buffalo Trace product. It's bottled in bond, so it's 100 proof. It's a straight Kentucky rye.
Mash Bill 1?
I think it's Mash Bill 1.
I think so too.
Or no,
Yeah.
this is the rye Mash Bill.
Oh, I'm an idiot.
Regular Taylor, I think, is Mash
Small
Bill 1.
batches that are 1. Yeah, I'm an idiot. This is mash, the rye mash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is the same mash bill as the Pappy Rye too, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they were. I mean, because it's amazing. I didn't know that how they just make older whiskeys based on the same mash.
Yeah.
Either 1, 2, or rye.
Yeah, that's when we were at Buffalo Trace, couple weeks ago now. They said that they don't select, or they don't age for particular whiskeys. They just take samples and they say like, oh, this is definitely a Taylor, or this is a Blanton's, or this is a Stag, or whatever. And they kind of know where certain things in the warehouse should go.
Yeah.
But a lot of it comes down to like final tasting and blending barrels to get the right profiles, which is pretty interesting.
And it was really cool when the guy was talking about the guide. He was talking about the standard. So they keep a bottle of the standards. That at some point many years ago, somebody said, "This is Pappy 23."
Yeah.
And they bottle it and they protect it with their lives because that's the standard. Then when they go tasting, all right, bring out the standard and then taste it against it and see if it tastes like Pappy 23.
Yeah, and he said that they proof it like way down to like, it was like 40 proof or something. And then they taste the two side by side to see how like close they are, which is
for the flavor profile.
Interesting, yeah.
It makes sense, right? You take a lot of the ethanol out and truly focus on the flavor. That was a great story, and I guarantee you, because we were in the warehouse. We were in warehouse, what was it, 2? I mean, H?
It was, warehouse H.
Which is famous as hell.
Yeah.
And apparently has its own Facebook group. Or was it? No, that was at Buffalo Trace. They all got together.
It was, warehouse H. What did he say? I think that's where a lot of the
Pappies are.
Yeah, the Pappies come out of there.
Yeah.
Typically.
And the Taylors, he was talking.
The one next door, I think, was Warehouse C, which was the Tornado one.
Yep.
Which that special Taylor release came out.
Yeah.
The Warehouse C Tornado, which is like $10,000.
That it's selling for, $10,000 a bottle. That was really cool at Warehouse H, where he was obviously talking about the places in the warehouse. To your point, well, the ones at the top are probably going to be Buffalo Trace. We're sitting at the bottom when these are probably going to be Pappies, and I guarantee you, I saw a barrel that was more than 20 years old sitting right next to us on the right, and it just looked old as hell. I mean, it had no markings left. They just kept the barcodes, sticker on the side. But I guarantee you that was ready to be a Pappy at some point.
Probably, yeah.
Which is so cool, man. That history. But yeah, we didn't taste any Buffalo Trace rye whiskeys in the tasting.
No, we just had regular Buffalo Trace, Blanton's, Eagle Rare,
and then
bourbon cream,
the bourbon cream, and
root beer.
And didn't they have White Dog there?
No. We had the Wheatley vodka.
Oh, the vodka. That's what it was. That was actually really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed
that. That was one of the more drinkable vodkas I've had. Which like I hate vodka so much.
Yeah.
But that one was like almost drinkable for me.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I like vodka.
It's kind of saying something that it's...
Yeah, it's kind of like Dan and his rye whiskeys.
Yeah.
I like vodka, and, I enjoy a good Russian vodka or French, like Grey Goose, which they tend to be the highest qualities, or Tito's, which is really high quality. Tito's vodka is actually a really good vodka. And then... that's my standard for me. And I tasted this and I'm like, holy crap, that wheated vodka was so freaking good.
Yeah. And it was, he said that's like a regular corn mash bill, I think, right?
I think so. It's like corn and wheat.
Yeah, and like I think he said it was like $18.
It was cheap. It was 19 a bottle. Yeah. And
which is like
they had a shitload at the store.
For the quality, that's a fantastic price. I think
it was great. Good vodka. But yeah, I wish they would have given us some sort of rye, maybe like a Taylor rye or whatever.
Yeah, something really cool.
Something cool. But it was good. I was talking to the owner of our local store, Gold Eagle, a couple of minutes ago because I stopped by to say bye and to pick up a bottle. And I was telling him, with the first time I went to Buffalo Trace almost 3 years ago, it wasn't as commercial as it is now. Like, I feel like I was being dropped off at Disney World.
Yeah.
With the ticket lines and the big store. The store was not that big. It was about half the size when I went.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, that's expanded as hell. Huh. And the tastings, well, at least my tasting was done in like the regular bar, not in tasting rooms. And they probably existed. I just didn't see them. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It just felt like I was getting dropped off at Disney World.
Yeah.
It was still fun, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to go there. They're in the middle of that massive expansion. So in like 5-6 years, we should start seeing more stuff like on the shelf and like readily available. Yeah, so that'll be nice.
It'll be nice.
Some of my favorite stuff is Buffalo Trace. Yeah. So
and I agree. I think I'm torn a little about what's going to happen because they are doubling the expansion or their capacity. They're expanding to double capacity, which says a lot. And we are going, we're going right now through the bourbon craze. We're like right in the middle of it, where everybody's looking for a Buffalo Trace product. And 5 years from now, Buffalo Trace products are going to be available in any store, in any shelf, because they're double or even tripling capacity.
Yeah.
So I'm torn because on one side, they're one of my favorite whiskeys. They do make amazing whiskeys.
Yeah.
And I like them, and if I can find them, if I could find this one, Taylor Rye, I would buy it every week just so I can have it.
Yeah.
Right now, I still, I have 1.5 bottles, and the other one I'm not going to open anytime soon because I'm like, well, shoot, I can't find another one.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, I don't know, it loses a little bit of the mystic aspect to it. It's like, okay, well,
like legendary status. Yeah.
Okay, well, so now you find E.H. Taylor Rye on any shelf at the Jewel, the grocery store. You're like, it loses a little of the mystic aspect.
Yeah. I mean, supposedly though, it's how it used to be.
Back when people
where it was
vodka.
Like Weller, Taylor, Blanton's was like everywhere and no one wanted it.
Yeah. So we went to see, obviously, at Buffalo Trace. Well, I mean, not obviously, but they took us through the Blanton's warehouse where they bottle and label and pack Blanton's. Every Blanton's bottle that you see, it goes through that small warehouse. It's not even a warehouse. It's more like a shop. But it's pretty cool. We didn't get to see the production running. When you do see that, it's pretty cool how they bottle the bottles by, almost by hand. And I say that, I'm telling this story because when I went and the production was running, the guy that gave us a tour was saying Blanton's was just, it's just another whiskey that was sitting, to your point, on the shelf at a store.
Yeah.
And the original bottle of Blanton's, it didn't have the topper. But nobody wanted those whiskeys. People were drinking vodka or gin. And like everybody in Kentucky said, whiskey was your grandfather's drink, and that's it.
Yeah.
So then at some point, Buffalo Trace said, like, well, we got to come up with a marketing ploy to sell these bottles because nobody wants them.
Yeah.
And they came up with the horse topper as a collectible, and apparently, like, it took off really nice because everybody wanted to collect the toppers.
Yeah.
It's pretty clever.
And it was the first single barrel whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is pretty neat.
Yeah. That is pretty cool. I love Blanton's. It has such a special smell to me. Like when we were in the tasting room, just smelling it, like, yeah, this is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't get it right at the tournament.
Yeah. So we'll talk about E.H. Taylor and like how he fits into the Buffalo Trace story real quick.
Nice.
So he was a distiller, and he's actually known for kind of modernizing distilling in Kentucky. So he originally, in 1869, purchased a distillery that he decided to call Old Fashioned Copper, which is now a whiskey that Buffalo Trace releases once every year.
Yeah, it's like once a year or something.
Which is the OFC, which is impossible to find.
You can't find it.
I don't even know who gets that. Probably the people at the distillery or like the one who owns it.
And then they take it home and that's it.
Yeah. So that was when he bought that distillery, that was his first foray into distilling. So he modernized, expanded, and upgraded everything in the plant. He used copper across all aspects of the distilling process. So all of the fermentation tanks were copper, all the piping was copper, and all the pot stills were copper, which helps fight bacteria growth and keeps
and takes the impurities out.
Filters sulfur and other crap that you don't want in your whiskey. So that was kind of like a big step forward. He developed a more efficient method of sour mashing, so carrying over some of the waste from your previous distillation, which also helps combat some of that bacteria growth, and it actually helps enhance flavor or keep flavor consistent from batch to batch. I didn't know this, but he was actually the mayor of Frankfort for 16 years.
Oh, nice.
Which is funny. And then in 1879, George T. Stagg actually bought the OFC distillery, incorporated into the Buffalo Trace family, which I don't think it was called Buffalo Trace yet at that point.
No,
but, it was probably like the George T. Stagg distillery or something like that.
Yeah.
But Taylor was also instrumental in getting the Bottled in Bond Act passed. So that's pretty cool.
That is a cool story. And there was, they had all the old signs and everything about Colonel Taylor there and the history. And then what was really cool, it was the warehouse that they walked us by on the way to the cooperage. Well, it's not the cooperage, but where they have the barrels.
Yeah.
At the very top, you see the OFC that's still there 200 years later.
Yeah.
On the warehouse. That was super cool.
Yeah. And then Taylor, I think after OFC was purchased, he went down the road a little bit and started the E.H. Taylor distillery, which is now Castle and Key.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful as well.
Beautiful property, like right in the hills, like in the middle of like a valley almost, right?
Like
surrounded by hills and by the river.
Yeah.
So freaking nice.
It's really cool.
Too bad we didn't get in. Well, I mean, Dan did, but he left us for the Ukrainian war, so it doesn't matter. It's fine. Nobody cares.
So like the Castle and Key building is all limestone, I believe. And at the time, I think the limestone was cheaper than the concrete reflecting pool that was built in the back part of the distillery. It's like on like a ratio of like 2 to 1 or something, like which is funny because like when you go now, like there's some of it's clearly aged and like it was left in disrepair for a long time before Castle and Key came and like resurrected it. But Dan was saying that the reflecting pool is under this like really nice canopy and like it's like a covered like thing. It's like in like a garden, like all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
But when Castle and Key bought it, it was filled with trash and like debris.
Yeah.
When they cleaned it out, all of this concrete from like the 1800s was like pristine.
Yeah.
So like,
cool.
yeah, it's, like well over 100 years old, and it's still
at least
like, perfect, which is funny.
Julia took a really cool picture of the reflecting pool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it. Julia, who went with us to the tour, the Bourbon Matters Kentucky tour, she took a really cool picture of the reflecting pool, and then you could see it. You can see what looks exactly like the cap of the bottles.
Yeah.
For Castle Key, and that's actually, if you look at the topper, the cap of the bottle, it looks like it's a circle with some lines on it, like concentrical lines, and they took the idea for the cap, for the topper, from the reflecting pool, how it's reflecting the circle at the top.
Yeah.
So
which is pretty
cool.
Neat. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to ask her for a picture so we can put it on our account.
Yeah. Dan said that he gained some appreciation for the Castle and Key bottle, but he still hates it.
I don't know why. Dan's just the most peculiar guy sometimes. It's no Pappy. Well, no, yeah, we know. Oh man, yeah, that was cool that they drove us by. We drove by Castle Key, which is maybe a mile, maybe a couple of miles from Woodford Reserve.
Yeah.
So nice, the limestone building, same concept as Woodford, it's like tucked into the hills by the river. Beautiful, it's just beautiful area. And all of the warehouses, because most of them are limestone, are completely covered in black fungus.
Yeah.
And that was something that I remember somebody telling the story the first time I went to the Bourbon Trail. Didn't stick with me until this time when I really noticed that all the warehouses in Buffalo Trace or at Buffalo Trace were covered in black fungus. Mm-hmm. Woodford Reserve, Castle and Key, all the ones that still have warehouses of either concrete or limestone or brick, completely covered in black fungus.
Yeah.
Makes sense after they explain to you that you see the warehouses, many of them have either no windows or windows open, and the fumes of the ethanol that's being evaporated come out of the warehouse, gets onto the concrete or the brick or whatever it may be, or the limestone, and then the fungus that likes the ethanol starts taking over, and the walls are just black.
Yeah, the fungus like absorbs it or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, can you imagine being that fungus? That'd be awesome. Yeah. How do I turn into a fungus that just drinks whiskey all day? Maybe I already am a fungus that drinks whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when we went to Heaven Hill, they actually power wash all of their warehouses once or twice a year to keep that off.
Yeah.
But then others just totally leave it. So it's interesting to see.
I like that they left it. Buffalo Trace, they don't really care. They're like, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
There it is. It's the fungus. Great.
I mean, at some point there's probably not much return for cleaning it off. So
other than aesthetics.
Yeah.
Which it's a good point. Barstown, for example, has a lot of new warehouses, if not all of them, because they're they're pretty new.
Yeah.
And it's metal at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the fungus grows on them. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know, because the Heaven Hill ones were. I don't know if those were metal or not. I
don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember the warehouses. They looked almost like concrete, or
it might be more difficult for that to grow,
to attach
without
to the metal.
Without the stone or brick,
Yeah, that was pretty cool though. Like I enjoyed the story of the warehousing, the fungus, the running of the steam through the warehouses.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Oh man.
And that's one of the things that Taylor actually pioneered was steam heat to like monitor temperature within the warehouses, which Woodford actually did as well.
Yeah,
I think
Buffalo Trace Woodford has them.
So it's an interesting philosophy, because the places I had been before, they're just like, we just throw it out there and whatever happens. And if
it's there, yeah.
But yeah, Buffalo Trace, Woodford.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other ones that did it.
No, I think those were the only two.
But it's interesting
Castle
that
and Key maybe because those warehouses, they're old too. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
If they have the steam running through them.
But it's just like interesting to see that philosophy of like we want to keep a very tight window of temperature.
Yeah.
Like,
man, the whole concept's just amazing of distilling. I mean, the whole process and the concept, right? The sourcing, coming up with the mash, which Buffalo Trace mash 1 and 2 are apparently one of the most secretive mashes out there that only a couple of people know at any given time. Then to the distilling and that process, just seeing it in action is so great. To barreling the whiskey, putting it in the barrels, and it's just amazing. I mean, it's an art. It really is.
Yeah,
it's really cool. Then I didn't know too that this one I learned on the trip that these guys, Taylor, Pepper, and even Colonel Sanders, they're all Colonel somebody.
Yeah.
And this whole time I kept thinking these people came back from the war and started distilleries.
Yeah.
Or Kentucky Fried Chicken. And then they're just like, by the way, none of these people were actually in the military. Like that's a title they give important people in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's just like it's like a gentlemanly title kind of thing.
Colonel Taylor, Pepper, Sanders. This whole time I thought there were people that came back from the war and started, businesses, distilleries or something. Like, okay.
Like, holy shit, there's a lot of colonels that came out of Kentucky.
People became businessmen. Good for them. Great trip. I'm really enjoying this Taylor Rye, which the first time I tried E.H. Taylor Rye was my guy in Dallas found me a bottle, sold it to me for about $200, which it's about right. It's about what you should be paying.
It should be like $95.
I don't know what rye retail is, but I mean, Taylor Rye.
Regular
is 40.
Bourbon is like 40.
Yeah.
So but I think the rye was about double. So I think it's about 90.
Because they normally are.
Yeah.
Like Angel's Envy, normally it's like 45. Angel's Envy Rye is about 90. And that makes sense. My guy in Dallas found me a bottle, sold it to me. And we opened it, actually. I opened it with you and Dan. That's when I opened my bottle. When I met you guys, well, I mean, I've known Dan, but you guys came over to my house and we got to drinking pretty quickly. And I was like, hey, let me open the Taylor Rye. And holy crap, I mean, I was just blown away.
Yeah, that was the first time I had tried it too.
So freaking good.
Yeah.
There's really good rye whiskeys out there, including Angel's Envy, which is one of my favorites. But there's nothing that compares to this.
Yeah, it's all the Buffalo Trace mash bills are closely guarded secrets, like you said. It's like we don't really know what the mash bill is for this.
Yeah.
But to me, it tastes like it's probably a pretty high corn mash bill.
It's got to be because of the sweetness.
Because it's pretty sweet for a rye whiskey.
Yeah.
You do get the like peppery, flavors that you'd expect out of a rye, but it's not like the 95% ryes that we've had recently that are like taste like floral and stuff like that. This tastes like a
high rye bourbon almost.
Yeah, but
yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah,
there's got to be a decent amount of corn in here. It is sweet. And that's part of why I love this whiskey. It's because it's sweet. By the way, I forgot to give Sam out in Marengo, our guy Sam, a shout out because he got me my second bottle of Taylor Rye.
Oh yeah.
So thanks Sam for finding me a second bottle, and now I drink my first bottle pretty freely because I know I have a second one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to your point, one, the color of this, it's beautiful copper color.
Yeah.
It's a Buffalo Trace product, which it says it all, and I'll touch on that in a second. For a second, because it's easy for anybody that's new to bourbon or whiskey or whiskey drinking to say, well, I got to have Buffalo Trace because it's the best. But why is it the best? Is it because it's not available and you just want it? Do you really appreciate it?
Yeah.
Like, do you truly think the flavor is something that you cannot compare with another one. And it's the people that just wanted to have it like, well, I got to find a Blanton's because that's the thing. Oh, that's stupid. These products have been produced nonstop for 200 years. Buffalo Trace is the longest continuously running distillery in the country. Not in the world, because the Scottish probably have been drinking whiskey since like 5,000 years running. In the U.S., longest running distillery. The mash bills were decided on pretty early on, so they've been using the same mash bill continuously for at least 100 years.
Yeah.
And they've perfected every step of the process. They've perfected the distilling, the water they use, the filtering, the bottling, the barreling, over 200 years. And it is true. Like, these are uncomparable products.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, I think, a level of the like legendary, with their stuff. But we're on, this will be episode 35, I think.
Yeah.
Wow. We've tried 35 different bourbons and ryes on this show, and this is still like one of my top.
Oh my God, yes.
This is probably top 3 ryes.
Yeah.
And regular E.H. Taylor is probably top 5 bourbon.
Absolutely. So good. Mash Bill 1. It's sweet. It's peppery. Even the regular small batch Taylor, it has a really nice spice to it.
Yeah. It's I mean, like, the obsession is like seems to always be with Blanton's.
Yeah.
Which, like, I like Blanton's.
Yeah.
It's good. But I have had bad bottles of Blanton's.
Yeah, that's the problem with single barrel.
You try it and you're like, this doesn't taste as good as like the one I had, before.
Yeah.
Where, like, I mean, the Taylors are all blended.
Yeah, it's a blended batch.
So it's definitely more consistent, and they're
I think Taylor, I think
they're superior to Blanton's.
100% agree. I think Taylor can take down a Blanton's on a blind taste any day of the week. It is, again, the consistency there's a lot to say for consistency. And Blanton's is good. It's a great bottle. I'll drink it any day too. But there's way better Buffalo Trace products out there.
Yeah.
Taylor being one of them. And I've always been a fan of Buffalo Trace bourbon.
Yeah.
And one, it's funny because I've always thought, like, this bottle's $25, $30, and it's great. And it's easily available. Most places you can find a bottle. Not all of them, but most places you can find a bottle. I did not know it was an 8-year. And we talked about this. Did I talk about this when I was drunk last time? Yes, I think so. So I won't repeat the story because I was drunk last time. I don't remember that episode. I remember being there. But one, I didn't know it was 8. 2, I would, honestly, on a blind taste, and people are going to hate me for this, I would put a Buffalo Trace against a Blanton's on a blind taste and let it go at it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I'd probably pick the Buffalo Trace over the Blanton's.
Me too.
Depending on how good that Blanton's
how the batch was, yeah.
I mean, yeah, because like the Buffalo Trace is older than Taylor is. Mm-hmm. I think Taylor's like 5 or 6.
5 or 6, yeah.
And Buffalo Trace is 8.
8.
Blanton's is 6.
Blanton's is 6 also. Yep.
Then Eagle's 10, obviously.
Eagle 10, which it's funny. We were in a room with 40 tasters at Buffalo Trace, and like I heard 4 or 5 be like, "Oh, this one's not great." When they tasted Eagle Rare, I'm like, "You are out of your fucking mind."
Yeah.
Eagle Rare is superior to a Blanton's. It's easier to find too, and it is superior to a Blanton's.
Yeah, some of the people in our group, mostly the people who didn't drink whiskey, did not like the Eagle Rare, which I was like very weird. Surprised by.
Yeah, me too.
But I think Eagle Rare is mash bill 2, right?
I do not know, and I would pull up a picture, but I lost my phone.
I think it is,
and I haven't had a phone for 4 days. So the picture that I took is on my phone, and I did not back it up. I lost all my pictures.
Because Taylor's batch 1.
Taylor's 1.
Or mash bill 1.
Taylor's definitely 1, yeah. Blends is 2. Elmer is 2. Eagle Rare, I think, is 2.
Oh, mash bill 1 is Eagle Rare and Taylor.
Okay, cool.
Mash bill 2 is Blanton's.
Mm-hmm.
Mash bill 1 is Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace is 1. Elmer T. Lee is 2.
Yeah.
And I think Rock Hill Farms is 2.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, it's surprising that, like, there were people in our group that were like, oh, no, I liked the Buffalo Trace, but I didn't like the Eagle Rare. And I liked Blanton's, you know.
Shame on them.
Really?
You know, because it's funny, and you're right. You know, a lot of it is true that the taste, your palate has to be developed. It is true that to a new drinker, some really good things are going to taste like shit because your palate hasn't developed. It's not about marketing. I'm not talking about the marketing ploy that, whoa, this one has tones of pepper.
Yeah.
And what? No, I'm talking about the true palate and the tasting of the bourbon. It has to be developed. I mean, if you gave me Eagle Rare 10 years ago, I'd be like, this is I don't know, it tastes like alcohol. I don't know what it is.
Well, and like the Eagle definitely has way more oak notes than I think the others do. So it's a different.
Yeah. It's a bolder taste.
Yeah, it's a bolder taste than the others. So I could see that being off-putting if you
haven't developed it
ready for that. Yeah.
But if you ask the people who have been drinking whiskey and specifically bourbon for 5-10 years, you give them Eagle Rare, and there's no comparison. I mean, that thing is so freaking good.
Yeah,
and everybody will tell you, like every one of them will say, like, "Yep, this is great. This is great." And there's something to be said for a 10-year bourbon.
Yeah,
especially again, like we were saying, a Buffalo Trace mash, which has been perfected over the last 200 years. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Going back to this rye, it's so smooth. It's sweet. It's easy to drink. Spicy. I took my last sip about maybe 2-3 minutes ago, and I still feel the spice.
Yeah.
But not in an overpowering way. In a very nice. I'll make a quick reference. I'm also Mexican, but I'll make a quick reference that if you have a jalapeno or a poblano. If you have a jalapeno and a poblano and a serrano pepper, the serrano is going to kick your ass. Mm-hmm. It's going to feel like your mouth's on fire. The jalapeno is going to be somewhere in between because it's a little sweeter. Yeah. The poblano is going to be like more flavor than spice. That would be like that. It's the equal of what I'm feeling with a rye, that I can feel the spice in a flavorful and nice way.
Yeah. And it's like a very like welcoming linger. Mm-hmm. It's not like, a like shitty aftertaste that's like sticking with you, and you're like, oh my God, like I need to drink water. Which is the problem of a lot of rye.
Like James Pepper rye can have that effect. The single barrel, the tall bottle, that's a single barrel, right? I think, mm-hmm. Yeah. That rye can have that effect, that the aftertaste can be actually a little bitter, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
But this has no aftertaste.
Yeah.
This is just so smooth. Very vanilla-y. Again, we talk about the sweetness. Definitely, there's got to be corn here.
Yeah, there's a lot of bourbon flavors in this, along with the rye. And it's very much that, like, Hallmark rye, peppery kind of flavor. But yeah, I mean, it's so good.
It's like... This would be a really good dessert rye, kind of like Angel's Envy, but Angel's Envy's got more notes of maple syrup. This one, there's a little bit of maple syrup in here, but not a lot. It's not as pronounced as Angel Envy. This would be a really good dessert rye, with like a nice cheesecake or a creme brulee.
Mm-hmm.
And a cigar after. So this is really good to drink with dessert and then have a cigar.
Yeah. And it's a good, I think, dessert pairing because it does have a little bit of sweetness, but it has enough of that
kick.
Yeah, the kick to counteract a sweet dessert,
Yeah. So your mouth is not like, oh shit, you're giving me sweet over sweet.
Yeah.
It's like you're giving me sweet, and then you're counteracting with a little bit of bitter spiciness, but bitterness in a good way, in a really good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I love the spice in my mouth right now.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think when we tried this at your house, that was the first time that you and I met.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because you had known Jenna and Dan from.
No, I hadn't met Jenna either.
Oh, you hadn't met Jenna?
No, I thought we worked together, but I never met her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you met Jenna and I for the first time. And, Dan was telling me, like, oh, this guy's got, a bunch of whiskey. I was like, oh, cool. Like,
yeah. Great.
And so, like, we came in, then you pulled this out, and I was like, this is one of the things I thought I would never see in my life.
Yeah.
Then when we tried it, I told Dan, like, that I was having, like, a religious experience because it was so good.
It is so. And that was my first time trying it because we opened it that night. And I was having a religious experience, and it was so freaking good. I mean, it is. But yeah, that was fun. And now, that was a year and a half ago, and it just snowballed from there.
Yeah.
That just got so bad. Yeah. I think that's when I probably still only had about maybe 50 bottles. And I had some repeats, so it wasn't all unique 50s. But that's when... my best bottles were like E.H. Cellar Rye. Mm-hmm. I did have Rock Hill and Elmer.
Yeah.
But now it's shit. Now it's just snowball from there. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Including this room.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, I'm not sad that I was supposed to bring the rye today. I've had a hell of a week. Not like Dan. Dan's about to get kidnapped. He's having a worse week than me. He's going to be... Like Joe Biden is going to have to ride the president of Slovenia to make a trade. I don't know if Biden will do that for Dan. But I was supposed to bring the ride today, and I forgot it. I was in Mexico for the last 4 days, right after the Bourbon Trail.
Yeah.
So we got back on a Monday evening. Mm-hmm. I got on a plane at 1 p.m. the next day to go to Mexico for fun because I went to see Iron Maiden. That was a great freaking concert. By the way, Iron Maiden was saying, like at the concert, like, hey, this is actually the highest selling concert of the tour. And it was 68,000 people. And I think the second closest was Brazil at 64, which that's why a lot of bands go to Mexico City to record.
Well, they have a massive stadium too, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
And this one, so they do. But this one actually, because it was a bigger, the regular stadium where they normally, they get like 50,000. This one they did it at the Formula One track.
Oh, okay.
Which it has permanent stands all around like a stadium to see the race. And so a lot of bands, when they go big, they go to this track.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so we were there, and I had a great time. I saw Iron Maiden. Took the subway back to my friend's house. Subway, if you've seen those videos or pictures of Hong Kong, people trying to get into the subway where they actually push them in.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. Like, they were pushers outside. They're like, okay, everybody in, and then they would push you in. What I'm talking about is that you are leg to leg, body to body with about 50 other people surrounding you. So anyway, I looked at my phone. I didn't have new anything, so I put it in my pocket. Somebody probably saw me. Get out of the subway. I didn't have a phone anymore. Long story to say that I feel ahead of a week. This is the best way to
cap it.
To cap the week, actually, because I'm moving. I lost my phone. I haven't had a phone for 4 days. And work's been busy, so this is good.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying this.
So I think next episode, because we're recording this a little bit early, but the next episode I think will be your last in-person episode.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say the last, because we'll come back.
Yeah,
but it will be the last living here. Yes.
Yeah, for a bit probably. Yeah. So I think we're gonna do the Eagle Rare single barrel that I picked up today. Yeah, that Gold Eagle had today.
It is her pick, right? I think.
Yeah, it's a single barrel pick.
Yeah.
So
it's a 350 bottle.
Yeah, it's a 375.
375. Yeah.
Yeah, the full size sold out before me and Jenna
they had a full
there.
size?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually
I don't think they had many. I think they had like maybe like 12.
So I actually prefer the small one because I have some.
Yeah.
And I told Jake, the owner of Gold Eagle, I told him I'm not opening this. Like, this is my memory from Gold Eagle, and I'm just gonna leave it on the shelf. But
nice.
Easy for me to say. I also have 25
Eagle Rares
in my house.
So yeah, I think we'll open that. We'll drink that for your living in Illinois goodbye episode. But you'll probably zoom in on the next episodes.
I'll zoom in. Now I have to actually buy bottles again. Hey, we're having this. Like, well, shit. Now I gotta go find it. Yeah, no, it's it's been good. This room really made the podcast. This room's cool. The setup, the chairs, the whiskeys.
Yeah.
So now I'll zoom in for my new bourbon room.
Yeah.
In San Antonio, Texas. I'll hang out with the 4th Gram guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good way to finish the week here with a nice Taylor. Next week we'll do Eagle Rare. We have a bunch of pictures from the Bourbon Trail on our Instagram.
Yep. Go check those out.
Check those out. We just hit 600 followers today, so thank you. It took us, so I don't know how many weeks, but it was a lot of time. It's a long time that it took us to get a 300 and 400.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, well, I think we can make 500. And then we hit them about 2 weeks ago.
Because we hit 500 right before we went to Kentucky.
And now we have 600 in like the week after.
2 weeks.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for following @BourbonMatters on Instagram. We talk about bottles. Mainly we have pictures of us either at a tasting or trying new things and talking about the new things that we try. We also have the episodes there on Instagram that you can see when we release them. But yeah, Bourbon Matters. We're also on Facebook. Bourbon Matters, same thing, similar content. Dan, if he ever comes back from Slovenia, he'll update the website, which is bourbonmatterspodcast.com. But yeah, follow us. We have fun with everybody.
Yeah, and you can watch us on YouTube, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, most places where you can listen to podcasts.
Dan is probably on OnlyFans. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's got an OnlyFans account.
Now that he's in Slovenia, maybe
he's got to do something for money. You never know. Well, good.
All right.
Thanks for supplying the ride. This is great.
Yep.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
To play your dance role here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cheers.